Your Honors, in democracies, in young democracies, we have placed limitations on presidents, ladies and gentlemen, on how many terms they can run. This is to protect individuals in society from one man from entrenching himself into power and perpetuating rule, ladies and gentlemen, under the guise of election and under the guise of democracy. We're in young democracies where these particular democratic checks and balance, the Supreme Court, the impeachment process are relatively weak. That's why we place presidential limitations on presidents, ladies and gentlemen. But we do not see these particular problems in mature democracies, ladies and gentlemen. In democracies, we have been consistently ranked by the World Democratic Index as the most stable and strongest democracies in the world, such as the Scandinavian states, ladies and gentlemen, Iceland, and these particular countries where we do not see any existence of political dynasties. No, thank you. Wherein we do not see the existence of political apathy, but in fact experience political maturity as determined by the World Democratic Index, ladies and gentlemen. And we think that for these mature and stable democracies, abolishing the term limits of these presidents is the next logical step for these people to be able to exercise their full sovereign will in choosing their presidents, ladies and gentlemen, and members of this House. That's why open government is proud to propose after the policy that in these democracies, we think that we have to abolish these term limits. And how are we going to do about this? First, is there would always be a re-election, ladies and gentlemen, every 3 years, the same thing that we are doing right now in the United States. That is to ensure whether or not that president is still wanted by the people at the end of the day. But there would be no limitation as to how many times he could run in the election. Second, we're also going to still strengthen democratic institutions, particularly the Supreme Court that checks the actions of the president, and we're going to also strengthen the impeachment process. When in fact the president exercises grave abuse of discretion, the people can still rally to the courts and have him impeached. But thirdly, and this is a new prong for the presidential system, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the institution of the recall election, ladies and gentlemen, which has not yet been done in presidential elections. Meaning, a concerned citizen may petition the Commission on Election of that particular country to conduct an election, whether or not that president should still remain as president. Ladies and gentlemen, to the vote of no confidence in parliamentary systems, and we're going to carry this out to the presidential elections, ladies and gentlemen, and members of this House. What am I going to talk about as Prime Minister? Firstly, I'm going to talk about how term limitations on presidents is a suppression of the sovereign will of the people in choosing who their president should be, which is in direct contrary to what democracy is all about, in choosing who your leader should be. And secondly, I'm going to discuss why this is necessary for us to have consistency in public policy. Before proceeding, any points?
Sir, do you think it's possible for mature democracies to digress back to faulty democracies by some political turmoil?
No, that is debatable, and we will say no. Now, the first argument is the suppression of the sovereign will of the people, ladies and gentlemen. Because the very reason why we have elections or democracies is for people to choose who their leader should be. If whether or not that leader represents the entire identity of that nation, or if that leader is willing to fight for the rights of the people, or if that leader is the very representation of who the nation is, ladies and gentlemen, and members of this House. That's why we created the entire electoral system and we strengthened it. But in young democracies, as earlier stated, we place limitations on presidential elections because there are a lot of problems right now in young democracies. First, they don't have a strong democratic institutions that would check the president. Also, you have still an uneducated population wherein they can still easily be swayed by politicians, ladies and gentlemen, and the entrenchment of political dynasties that perpetuate their power within young democracies. But again, in mature democracies, we do not see them, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, in Iceland, they were able to turn out, they were able to get rid of their president through non-election, through a vote of no confidence. The recall system, ladies ladies and gentlemen, that we are trying to propose and decide of the House. What is inherently wrong with term limitations then? Because even if the entire nation would still want to have that particular president, they cannot do so because of the constitutional limitation on how many times that president will actually serve. And that is in contrary to what democracy, ladies and gentlemen, is all about. Because it becomes now an auto limitation on the part of the civilians on who their president should be. And elections is all about renewing the social contract with them and the state. But here, it is a haphazard type of renewing the social contract if by the end of the day, they will only choose a president, not they want, because the president that they truly want cannot anymore be re-elected. Now, the problem you might be thinking is, how about these individuals who are corrupt or who would only perpetuate and entrench themselves into power? Well, we think that in mature democracies, we're able to respond to that. As compared to the Philippines, ladies and gentlemen, we have a politically apathetic community where if you ask any random Filipino, he will not be so well versed as to what is happening right now in the political system. But if you compare that to these mature, stable democracies, they even engage their presidents. They even have local councils within them wherein they engage in direct democracy. Because the people themselves exercise democracy. They're the ones who legislate laws for them. And in fact, these are the same people who shape the entire nation by themselves, because that is the level of maturity that these democracies are experiencing. That's why we think that it is contrary to what democracy is all about if we do not allow people to choose who their leader should be. But the second idea is this, inconsistency in terms of public policy. Because if you take a look at the judiciary, they do not have any term limitations, correct? Because we recognize the judicial philosophies on how law should be interpreted must remain constant if you want consistency within the judiciary. But we do not see that in the executive, because every time that there would be any re-election, ladies and gentlemen, a shorter term for a president to finish all of his policies, there would be a new president who might think differently than he actually is, could disrupt what he already started. This is the same way that we're seeing right now with President Aquino, where all the economic policies, which has argued by economists are relatively good from the Arroyo administration, are slowly being dismantled by the Aquino administration. That's why we do not see any consistency in public policy. In summation, we do not think that this is what democracy is all about, but more importantly, we have to value consistency in our public policy. For all of that reason, OG is proud to open.
Whether or not a democratic state, a politically mature state, ladies and gentlemen, we think that the term limitation should still apply. Because we think there are still common problems that are inherent with the power, ladies and gentlemen, and precisely the imbalance of power that's inherent in the type of policy that opening government wants to happen. So even if we're talking about these nations who have good voters, ladies and gentlemen, who have strong democratic institutions, we think that the problem will still remain on their side. Which is why the flashpoint from opening opposition is simple. We want to retain the current political system, ladies and gentlemen, where politicians who want to become presidents still have a limit in terms of their term, which means that you're only given one opportunity to serve as the president, ladies and gentlemen. Like if the term is 6 years, for example, that means that after 6 years, you're no longer allowed to serve as president at the end of the day. Why is that the case? Two reasons. First, we think that we have to strike a balance in terms of the power that should be afforded to individuals, ladies and gentlemen, especially that we're talking about the president who holds the top position, ladies and gentlemen, and almost absolute power within the nation. But second, we think that even creates insidious harms, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the governance in that type of nation. I have two things to talk about as leader of. One, I'm going to talk about the true spirit of democracy and why there ought to be a balance of power that should be afforded to politicians who want to run as president. Sit down. Second, I'm going to talk about how their model will badly affect the type of governance, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, let's try to engage Carlo. Because his only problem, ladies and gentlemen, is that what about people who still want the president, ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, he's very good. But if you look at democracies, Madam Speaker, if you look at choices, your right to choice isn't always absolute. The state has to protect you as well from those choices, especially if there isn't already harm. And I'm going to prove to you later on why there is a harm in terms of a imbalance of power, ladies and gentlemen, that will further trickle down to the people on the ground, regardless of the nature of the state, whether or not it's not politically mature, ladies and gentlemen. But the second thing he never engaged is that what about the worst case scenario, ladies and gentlemen? What about we have a bad president at the end of it? But their answer was, you have impeachment cases anyway. One, it's not mutually exclusive, but comparatively speaking, the difference on our side is that we're preempted, ladies and gentlemen, before the harm has happened. On their side, you already have corruption cases, it has already amassed the wealth of the nation, ladies and gentlemen, then that's exactly where you only move. So comparatively speaking, ladies and gentlemen, we're better off from preempting those types of harms. But the last thing we talk about is this idea of consistency, where he gave a weird example. If you want to talk about those politically mature states, but he gave example of Aquino, ladies and gentlemen, which still proves to you, for example, that democratic institutions might work at the end of it. But we told you that that benefit is not mutually exclusive. Because if you talk about platforms, ladies and gentlemen, you can even pass that to your party mates, ladies and gentlemen, and you have a higher incentive to continue what Pinoy has started, ladies and gentlemen, because it will all trickle down to how your party will be viewed in general. So you will all the more have the incentive as well, ladies and gentlemen, to continue all of the economic reforms that are on your side. The mutually exclusive benefit is that you offer a fresh perspective, ladies and gentlemen, and you prevent those harms from happening.
Sure. But the problem with the way you characterize your president is as if he will sit there without being subjected to re-election. The re-election in itself is the limitation that is enough.
Why is that automatically bad, ladies and gentlemen, to begin with? We don't necessarily get why there, in terms of weighing, for example, the type of balance that should be stricken, ladies and gentlemen, on their side. What then is the first point? Why there ought to be a balance of power that should be afforded to individuals? If you look at how democracies are framed, it's always about the balance of power. That's why you have different branches, like executive, like different from legislative and judiciary. The purpose of which is to maintain a balance, ladies and gentlemen, so that they can countercheck each other. Because you recognize, ladies and gentlemen, the power of the president and the executive as well has limitations. Why do we even have to maintain, sit down, this limitation in these cases, ladies and gentlemen? Because we value and we recognize the value of time of you serving as a president. What does the time limit say? This tells you that this is only your opportunity to serve, that you're only given 6 years, that this is your only timeline and you have to fulfill all your promises within this period. But what happens when there is a time limit, ladies and gentlemen? What happens when there's a time limit is that when you are given like 10 years or even beyond that, you're more likely to abuse the power that is given to you. How is that? The debate is all about likelihood. And if you look at the calculus of presidents, if you look at Marcos, in the first 3 years, for example, he might be good in terms of economic reforms, for example. But after that, he sought for more power, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at it, ladies and gentlemen, this is most likely the mindset of politicians. Because if you look at presidency, for example, you all have the power, ladies and gentlemen, you hold the biggest power. So the mindset, therefore, is, sit down, I don't have time limit anyway, I can still be re-elected because people trust me, for example, that I'm a good president anyway, so I rely on the people's vote, ladies and gentlemen. That's ultimately the mindset of these politicians, which pushes them, ladies and gentlemen, and which further incentivizes them to abuse their power at the end of it. Versus, when you have a limit, you only have this opportunity, so might as well not be complacent, ladies and gentlemen. And that has happened to Pinoy as well when he knows his deadline, and he puts a lot of pressure to him, ladies and gentlemen, to finish all these types of promises. So comparatively speaking, we think that, you know what, it's not automatic that they will abuse their power. But the debate is all about likelihood. It's more likely on their side for them to abuse their power. How then does it affect governance? If you look at it, I want to assume the best case of government. What if he's a very good president and has a very good platform? Why is this a value, ladies and gentlemen, still in having a limit? If you look at it, all of their benefits can still be co-opted, for example. Like you can have your party mates who can continue your legacy to begin with. But the second reason, and the second difference, ladies and gentlemen, why it's perfectly fine to have a different politicians out there, whether or not it comes from your party or other parties, yet at least it offers a new perspective, ladies and gentlemen, that is sensitive to the changing political and economic context as well, ladies and gentlemen. And you cannot necessarily homogenize all individuals, that you know what, you can do all these types of things, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes people's views also changes, so you can't necessarily say that this is exactly what we want all the time, ladies and gentlemen. We think that those are the types of choices that the state has to protect from people from making. For all those reasons, we're very proud to oppose.
They can promise so many things in a speech, and at the end of the day, it was all assertions. Maybe the worst case will happen without telling us how the worst case will happen. And hopefully, I think that will be the extension coming from their POI. I will respond to that as well later on. First response, and let's look at first this debate, right? Clinton said that the problem right now is that we can't be, in our side, the values that we're forwarding is not mutually exclusive. We can't have consistency in their side because of political parties, right? That means in our side, but we say, ladies and gentlemen, that when you look at it, consistency is assumed on their side because the party mates probably can also say that I don't want to follow you because I kind of want to be better than my predecessor, I want to be different. But secondly, if they're as consistent as Clinton says, then that's a problem. Because then, if their allegiance is to their political party, the same president can consolidate power and just pass it on to a different man who will still continue the abuses and potential power that they are fighting for on their side. That means your very example will hurt you at the end of the day when we sit down. That means your term limit won't help you, because in that case, you're just putting a different person with the same abuses, same power, same damages, ladies and gentlemen. But the second idea was this. Wait, we need a fresh outlook in life, right? And that's why we need a new person out there. But the second idea, and the first idea is this. Clinton said that if you're a part of the same political party, you won't change, right? So in those cases, the question then is, where's your fresh outlook when you sit down? But secondly, we say that when you look at it and look at it, the president is not the most powerful people, we have equal branches. In those cases, then other branches can provide that fresh outlook. But secondly, your advisors can provide that fresh outlook. But thirdly, if people still vote for you, because in our side they're still being voted for, in those cases, that means maybe they don't want to change. Maybe they like how it is right now. Maybe they like how it is right now. In those cases, ladies and gentlemen, if your president is a Saragmurka, ladies and gentlemen, the poorest president, probably you love him, right? But the third idea is this. Clinton said that, well, it incentivizes you to do your best because you have 4 years, right? But after that, you have to maintain your legacy. That will be helpful later on in our case, by the way. We say, ladies and gentlemen, that in our side, we even push them further. By the ability of recall elections, that means you have 1 year to prove whatever you're saying, and that means, or 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to prove what you're saying, and that time limit by which you have to prove yourself constantly is there, rather than having an incredible period so maybe slap off in my first year and later on catch up. We think that in those cases, ladies and gentlemen, that's a big problem they have to solve coming from your team. But then, closing later on, we'll come up with this debate. What if digression happens, right? When you look at it, we will stop digression on our side. Because then, as Carlo told you, we have a more representative democracy. Because now, even if maybe you don't like your president, you can change it. If you don't like your president, you don't have to live with him. And if you like someone to be the president, you can choose him again. In that case, that degree of representation initiates that participation, ladies and gentlemen, for the individual. That accelerates firstly maturity. That means you're less likely to digress, by the way. And we think that enhances political activism within that nation. That creates a vibrant democracy, ladies and gentlemen, that will forward aggression and that will reject aggression in comparison to your side. Chances are that's why the Philippines is digressing. But the last idea was this, ladies and gentlemen. We say, and the question now is, will abuses arise from this? And I have 5 responses to this, ladies and gentlemen. First, we say, ladies and gentlemen, that usually this is unfounded, right? Because we're talking about mature democracies on our side, and they're less likely to digress. That means, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in a mature democracy, you already have a perfect system, you have unobstructed channels by which you can enhance and encourage democratic participation. Assuming abuses happen, the people will check it, the media will check it, the courts will check it, the Congress will check it as well. But secondly, in the enhancement of the international political dynamics as well, we say that it allows individuals, ladies and gentlemen, to be checked by the international community. Libya case and points it down in the key after this promise. We say that at the end of the day, and this is the third benefit and the third response, is that even the president himself checks himself, ladies and gentlemen, so that he will not commit abuse. Because as Clinton said, he loves his legacy, right? That means he's less likely to allow, ladies and gentlemen, for that legacy to be tarnished by his abuses. But secondly, you said as well, his political party will check him because they don't want their image to be tarnished as well. In those cases, ladies and gentlemen, we think that's an effective check on him. But lastly, that even the president knows the repercussions after he steps down, assuming he abused the power. That means that abuses, ladies and gentlemen, probably will result to retaliation against his family and onto him, for example, in a court like the ICC. We think that in those cases, you're less likely to commit the transgressions that you committed at the end of the day. Milky.
Isn't it that only after Arroyo's term was ended that we are only able to hold him further accountable because of the popularity and sovereignty
Let me
we're
talk
talking about?
what's your problem then of your case? We're talking about mature democracies. Your example for Philippines, I don't think Philippines at the end of the day, well, it can be considered a mature democracy. Because right now, we still have political cases in the Philippines that we need to check. And we think that in those cases, ladies and gentlemen, we think you don't qualify for a policy. But assuming Western said, what if you digress suddenly, right? And suddenly we don't know, we're in a political climate we don't want to be in. We think that automatic limitation clause of the Constitution comes into play, ladies and gentlemen. That's where the moment that you reach a point of political or democratic climate that's not considered mature by the index, for example, or by your pundits, that's the point, ladies and gentlemen, where we institute that term limit at the end of the day. Because we agree then, in those less mature and destructive democracies, ladies and gentlemen, that term limits is additional checks and balances, but is unnecessary coming from your side. We think if all else fails on our side, we still have the people. We think that in our side, in mature democracies, they are equipped to fight any government, like in the case of Iceland. They are equipped to challenge any institution because we have made and ensured that the channels are unobstructed. But what do they preempt coming from Clinton? Because that was Clinton's point, right? What you preempt then, Clinton, if you don't have a problem to begin with, is that you preempt the possibility of economic growth. The possibility of these people, because in economic growth phase here, you have to recognize consistency of policy is not just important because it's consistent, you have to live with it. But it gives the degree of certainty to investors, for example. That we have in there, that the same social-political climate will be there to save you at the end of the day, that it will be retained at the end of the day. That means, Clinton, at the end of the day, you don't really preempt any problem. You only preempt the same growth that you're trying to protect. We'll take this to you.
Madam Speaker, as Deputy Leader of Opposition, I'm going to launch a super even case. Even if the public loves him, even if he is a good president, why is it that inherently their policy distorts the balance of the democracy? I'm going to analyze election behavior, Mr. Speaker, that even a mature democracy, Madam Speaker, will eventually lead to a faulty democracy. But before that, lots of responses. Firstly, the argument coming from Carlos is, it's an oppression of the sovereign will of the people. Again, this is not true because we still have elections under our model. But the difference I would like to point out later in my extension is the validity of the new form of social contract that will happen. Because in their model, people will eventually get eaten up by the system, Mr. Speaker, and members of this House, which will affect their voting behavior later on, which is why there's no incentive for change, Mr. Madam Speaker, and an objective assessment of that. Why? Because all of the benefits of their policy are relying on popularity, Madam Speaker, and members of this House. But second, no thank you. Even if that is true, Madam Speaker, that there's a sovereign will of the people who are stepping on, no thank you, at least we're preventive of the potential harms, Madam Speaker, that Clinton talked about that they never responded to. And talk about the insidious effect when you are in power, most often than not, your personal interest will most likely come in. Because it's convenient for me to rely on the popularity of the public, Madam Speaker, and members of this House. So we think that the sovereign will of the people can be shaped, Madam Speaker, and can have a limit, especially that in the future, it might lead to potential harms. No, thank you. Second response. Let's talk about inconsistency of public policies, Madam Speaker. One, we think it's even harmful because of the kind of permanence that you would create under their model. If you're talking about Pinoy and Gloria, ladies and gentlemen, which by the way, Charles discounted, but that was the example of Parliament here, you remember here. If you look at Pinoy and Gloria, if there was no term limit for Gloria, then we wouldn't be enjoying the benefits that Pinoy is presenting to us right now. Madam Speaker, members of the South. No, thank you. So we think that we do not want to rely on consistency. Yes, we're okay with consistency, but we do not want to rely on consistency of policies based on personalities, Madam Speaker, but rather the concrete ideology that you are presenting when you already need that particular power. No, thank you. Third, let's look at impeachment, because this was only safe and a vote of no confidence. I think there's a contradiction. Why? One, there have a premise, ladies and gentlemen, that the public really loves him. So most often than not, even the legislative power, ladies and gentlemen, is more dominant of these particular allies, Madam Speaker. But second, they say, we can impeach him anyway. My question is this. What then is the incentive, ladies and gentlemen, of these people under the same structures to impeach him, ladies and gentlemen, if they know, ladies and gentlemen, that in the future, he will be there, ladies and gentlemen, and he has so much power, ladies and gentlemen. So if you look at the political considerations of these particular people, there's less incentive now for people to impeach them because they don't know in the future they might win because of popularity, Madam Speaker. Fourth, no thank you. They accuse us, ladies and gentlemen, the same harms will happen because you will put your candidate, party mate there, ladies and gentlemen, and eventually the same policies will be there and your permanence will be there. But the difference that Charles forgot, no thank you, is that the effect and the insidious effect to the behavior of you as a person, Madam Speaker. If you yourself is convenient, Madam Speaker, it will still be you anyway. It will still be I who will be having power for the next 6 years or even 12 or 20 if I'm so popular, Madam Speaker. It's that there is more likely for you to be attracted, Madam Speaker, and to have an effect for you to be corrupt, for you to abuse power, Madam Speaker, for you to create government structures that will prevent that particular power from being taken away from you. Before I move on, go on, Charles.
The premise of your whole case is personality politics that usually doesn't exist in mature democracies because they judge based on contributions that president gives to them. In that case, you have to engage out of frame. You can just create your own frame at the end of the day.
Okay, number one, we can challenge the frame. But second, we think that, thank you, Charles, for introducing my argumentation. What eventually, mature democracies now will focus on personality politics. Because that is the only reason, Madam Speaker, why they wanted to stay. Now, even if the public loves him, even if he is a good president, why is it inherently problematic? I have three premises. First, we have to understand that most often that sometimes people will vote on the basis of your previous history, sometimes charisma, or even convenience. If you look at long-running heads of states, like for example Hugo Chavez or Fidel Castro, if you look at the public, ladies and gentlemen, the reason as to why the public loves them is not because they genuinely love him, but he has been so in power for so long, Madam Speaker. Because there's less incentive for an opposition to the Chavez system, which produces an ideological dominance. If you look at the state, no thank you, no more points, is that there's a reproduction of the ideology when you are in power, Madam Speaker. Talk about your schools, talk about your government structures, by which you create an attachment toward the people, Madam Speaker, and members of this House. No thank you. But second premise is that it creates an imbalance in the perception politics. Under their model, it will always be the majority, Madam Speaker, who favor this particular president, who will get that power, Madam Speaker. It's what you call the tyranny of the majority, basically. But I'm not saying that the minority should always be babied and we should always cater to them. their case. But under their model, there's a very high threshold for minority to challenge the system, Madam Speaker, because it was already cemented by that. So even if you love Pinoy before, Madam Speaker, the fact that it could have been changed, Madam Speaker, it's easy for him to build structures, Madam Speaker, that will force him to stay on his power, because he will be just relying on his credibility before, for example, his good backgrounds, for example, ladies and gentlemen. But more than that, ideologically, the public is already shaped to be attached to this particular president if he's good, ladies and gentlemen. What if there's another candidate who is better, not necessarily that Pinoy is bad, but what if there's someone who is better? There's a bigger doubt coming from the public towards that particular individual, because he did not have these particular actions coming from Pinoy. Because speaking, ladies and gentlemen, there's a higher threshold because that individual wasn't president before. So what can he do to combat this particular credibility of Pinoy under their model? What is the conclusion, Madam Speaker? It will backtrack the nature of democracy eventually in the future. You might not see it now, but it will surely happen, Madam Speaker. Even if the public wants that particular person, the sovereign will of the public is not absolute. But more than that, what is then the point in linking it back to democracy? The opinion of your electors in the future is no longer valid because it was eaten up by a system, ladies and gentlemen, because of this particular timeline hegemony that you are providing under the model. What is the conclusion that you have to remember from UPLB? Number one, the balance of power, ladies and gentlemen, should always exist, and it can only exist when we push for that particular elements into these particular individuals. Two, we think that there's an insidious effect towards personalities of individuals, especially when they hold power. Thirdly, even in the best case scenario, ladies and gentlemen, eventually we have to protect the things that are important to us in the form of elections. It's always the behavior of the majority who will always win, and we think there should be equal threshold for both candidates. We're very, very proud to go to semifinals.